Thanks for coming down, guys. We just make sure everyone, pro staff included, have their phones on silent and turned off, please. Just to run you through how this will work, our Chairman, Rob Chapman, will say a few words to open. Don has a prepared statement which he'd like to read, and then at the completion of that, we'll be more than happy to take questions. So when everyone's ready, cameras all right? Let's get underway when you're ready.
Okay, thanks everybody for coming down. Relatively short notice. By now, I'm sure you've all read the press statement where we advise you that Don Pyke has today resigned from the Adelaide Football Club as Senior Coach. It's a really big decision for Don. It's a big decision for our football club, and I know it's one that hasn't been made lightly at all. Don approached Andrew and I several days ago, and we've had ongoing discussions naturally, as you would expect, and Don informed Andrew and I last night of his final decision, and that was to resign as coach of the Adelaide Football Club. I might pause there now. I know Don has got a statement that he would like to share, and then I think, Ian, we might just throw open to questions. Three of us will answer those as best we can, and then I'd like to wrap up once those questions are done. Don.
Thanks, Chappie. Obviously, as you're aware, I've had discussions with both Andrew and Rob over recent times. I've elected to stand down as the coach of the Crows. It's been an absolute privilege and a joy to coach this club, and I've loved my time here trying to achieve great things with our players, for our members and our fans. As Rob alluded to, the decision's been extraordinarily difficult to reach, and I do so following some serious and honest post-season reflections and conversations with a number of key people, including players, coaches, management, board, and my family and friends. I appreciate the club is currently undertaking a comprehensive review of the football operations, though it's important that the timing and outcome of this review plays no bearing in my decision. As I said, it's not a decision I've taken lightly, but clearly the team's recent performance and the current state of the club and the playing group is not to our or my expectations, and for this in my role, I ultimately accept responsibility. There were a number of factors and considerations in making this decision, but with a clear appreciation that change is required, in the end it came down to what I felt is in the best interest of the team and the club. I believe the club needs some clean air and a fresh page to move forward, and feel that for me to continue would potentially hold back progress to move positively into next season. There's no doubt that the last 18 months has been very challenging for all involved at our club, and from a personal viewpoint, particularly frustrating and draining. Further this, I believe, to continue to coach in the current environment the club and myself have endured is simply not sustainable. I therefore feel it is best I make way and allow a fresh and new voice to set a new direction. I'm disappointed to reach this position, but vital for me are two things. One, as I've said, the club and the playing group is able to move forward and perform to a level which we believe they're capable of. And two, the health and happiness of the important people in my life. I would like to thank the players, the coaches, the staff, management and the board of the Adelaide Crows for their support and efforts over my tenure, and wish them all the very best for the future. I spoke to the players about an hour and a half ago, informing them of my decision, and clearly it wasn't an easy conversation to have with a group of players that I've grown to love. I've been fortunate to work with many wonderful people and will cherish the friendships created during my time at the club, and I'll watch with afar and follow with great interest the club and team's progress, and always have a special place in my heart for the Crows. I came to the club with the aim of helping our players to individually and collectively be the best they can be, and this has been my driving force. It's been a wonderful ride, some great memories and ultimately some sad times mixed in amongst it, but now it is clear for me it's time to move on, knowing I've given it my all. I encourage all players to continue to own and drive their careers forward and accept their role and responsibility in creating a winning team environment. I would especially like to thank my wife and daughters for their incredible love, care and support to enable me to pursue my dreams in football and to selfishly devote the time and energy into the pursuit of building and preparing a team to compete week in and week out. The families ride the highs and lows in this caper, and it is difficult to see the impact it has on those close to you at times. I'd also like to thank my friends from afar and wide who have reached out and supported in recent times. I appreciate all your thoughts and best wishes. I would like to make one quick comment around AFL footy. The landscape we now operate in as an industry is more challenging than ever for players, administrators, boards, coaches, and this is leading to a wide range of issues around contentment. I hope that in the future we can find a better balance in how we view the game, regardless of result. Otherwise, I do fear for the people's genuine love of the game. In concluding, I'd like to thank the members and the many fans of the Adelaide Crows and wish all associated with the club all the best for the future. I leave disappointed, but knowing I was true to myself, I worked hard in pursuit of victory and always had the best interests of the players and the club in mind. I believe I still have a lot to offer the game, but will now take some time with family and friends and assess my options before deciding my future path.
Don, it sounds like an acknowledgement that you're the problem. Would you like to comment on that? And secondly, are you, with 2 years to go, are you leaving with any forward payments as the club paid you out?
I'll address the first comment. I mean, clearly, when the side is performing as it is, I recognise that with others, I believe I'm part of the problem quite clearly. The real question that I've grappled with in the last probably couple of weeks since the season finished is, am I also part of the solution? And I guess my feeling in the conversations I've had and in my personal self-reflections, I've reached the decision that I believe it's best to hand over to a fresh face with a new voice to move the club forward.
And going forward payments? Have you been paid out for any of your time ahead?
This is a resignation, as I said, completely separate to anything else that's going on, and as a consequence, like there's no termination payment, and those discussions are still ongoing with Don.
Don, were you given any indication as part of this review kicking off that, hey, things might not be going your way? Was this all your decision?
No, this is my decision. I said the review's been ongoing. I've been, in essence, having my own reflections and my own consideration around what I think is ultimately best for the club and for the playing group and also myself, and that's how I reached the decision today.
Can I touch on what you said at the end there, your last note? Given what's happened in the last week with Danny Fuller's tragic passing, has that brought into clarity and focus for you, this decision?
No, not particularly. The tragic news of Danny, and clearly he's sat in this chair in the past, but so disappointed for obviously for him and feel for his family. But I think, no, it hasn't had any impact in my decision.
Don, you're a proud man. Why weren't you part of the solution that you just touched on moving forward?
Well, that's an interesting question, Andrew, because I look at it from many angles, and it's not a simple answer, and that's why it's going to be difficult to really give you complete clarity in that space. I guess knowing what I know about myself and about the group and about bits and pieces, I just feel like my gut feel tells me that it was time to move on.
Did you have lots of respect for the playing group? Obviously, it's important the coach has the full respect and support of the playing group. Had you lost some of that?
No, I didn't feel that, and certainly the conversation I had with people, I wasn't feeling that necessarily was the case. I think that's, as I said, it's a complex, sort of situation. But I guess, as I said, I went with what I thought was my gut that meant that the group needed just to change. The reality was, we finished where we finished. We won 10 games this season. It was below, I think, my expectations and certainly the players' expectations. And so taking all into account, the feeling was what can change, and understanding my role is a big role in the footy club. And change will, I'm sure, happen. I'm sure that the review will be undertaken. There'll be some great findings out of that which will allow the club to return back to the place it wants to be, which is consistently winning and playing finals footy. And I guess I assessed my position in that and decided that there was risk going forward in that space for both parties, and that therefore the decision was made to hand the reins to someone else, to give them the opportunity with a genuine fresh page and some clear air to take the group forward.
You're such a high achiever. How tough was that call for you to make? Because clearly you would have loved to have got the club back up.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and I'll be honest with you, I ebbed and flowed in terms of do I, don't I? But as I said at the end of it, I've always said to the players that we make decisions at all times which are in the best interest of the club, and that's what I came back to, feeling that's in the best interest of the club as it stands, and so we move forward.
You spoke a bit about I don't remember the word, but almost resentment, like what could happen in the future. You worried for the future of the game. Did you sort of feel like it weighted the world on your shoulder? Do you lose a bit of love for coaching towards the end of it?
Look, there's no doubt it's a unique environment and it's becoming more challenging. And I guess that's what I'm saying in that statement is it's a challenging environment. But the reality is, as I've said before, the game is about people and we're dealing with people. And I think at times we can lose sight of that in terms of some of the things of how it's dealt with. And the players are under the same. And the reality is the pressure on in this game is significant. And that's part of what you do take on for. That's why we're excited by the opportunities that we can create in the game and everything else. But I think there's a line, and I reckon we're treading carefully to the line.
Did that take its toll on you this year, Don? That pressure that seems to constantly be around?
Oh well, certainly the general pressure that goes when you're losing games of footy in this town is real. I don't pretend to shy away from that. I think it's different to other markets. And at times, it does become quite draining, especially when you're dealing with some of the things which are, if I say fictional, it's probably correct, that we're having to respond to consistently. So it makes it a bit more challenging. Yeah.
Don, was there a moment in your reflection in the lead up to this where you thought that was a critical juncture for you that tipped you towards this decision?
No, there wasn't one particular moment. I think it was, obviously the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season were particularly challenging. We weren't playing good footy, and clearly when that's happening as a coach, you're looking at yourself and you're looking at exactly what's being created and what's not allowing the group to play the way they are. And as I said, I sit at the top of the tree in terms of our football structure, and therefore I look in the mirror first and say, what can I do differently and what can I change? And I guess when I weighed all that up and I balanced the risk out, I decided that I think it's in the best interest of the footy club for me to move on and give someone else a fresh start, to allow the playing group, as I said, that clean air to really attack next season.
How much was the decision weighed towards sort of sticking around? You said that you considered you could have been part of the solution.
Yep.
Was it as easy as you've reached your point and now it's moving back?
No, it wasn't. It was, as I said, it was a very difficult decision to make because, again, as a person who loves the footy club, loves his playing group, and would love to stay around and see that through, it was difficult to make that final decision. But as I said, on the balance of what I was assessing, I thought it was the right decision to make.
Well, you mentioned the health and happiness of those closest to you.
Yep.
How much of the part was family and the toll that, the strain on your family in this decision?
Yeah, well, that's a component. That's one part. I mean, there's always, in these decisions, you're looking at a whole range of people who are impacted by what you do, including myself, and, that's certainly a consideration.
Did they want you to keep going?
No, there was no direction coming from family or friends to say it's time or whatever else. I mean, you're just aware of the fact that, that it changes some of the relationships you have with those people, just by virtue of the industry you're in and the job you do.
You said you were open to staying in the football industry. Yep. What would that look like? Can you even put a finger on it at all?
I have absolutely no idea because I haven't spent 1 minute thinking about it, to be honest. I've had all my energy and time considering exactly where I sit here and engaging in conversations with Andrew and with Rob and others. And now that I've made that decision, I guess I'll have to think about what to do as an unemployed man now.
So what are you doing towards that part of your life?
Don't know. I'm going to take some time just to, basically spend some time with the family and friends and get some clarity around what it is that I want to do. I'm keen to keep coaching. I think I've got something to offer in that space, and we'll see what presents.
Don, you were close to winning the premiership 2
Yep.
years ago, not the Premier, obviously made the grand final. The camp came after that. How much has that impacted on the club's demise since then and your decision now?
Oh, well, and I've said before, and I'm not going to go back over old ground, but I've said before that we've recognised that the camp was a miss. So it's a component. It's there. It happened, but we've said it was a miss.
It was a distraction. Clearly a distraction. A lot of people ask about what are the one or two things. Don said it himself. We've spoken about in the last couple of weeks. It's just a myriad of little things that have added up, and we've oscillated. We've gone back and forth, Don, haven't we, over the last couple of weeks until last night, where Don spoke to us and had made up his mind that in the best interests of him and his personal situation, and in the best interests of the club, and to use his words, to give it some clear air and enable someone with some fresh eyes to come in and give us the best chance of, and everybody is part of it, the fans, the supporters, players, to get the success that it strives for.
And Rob or Andrew, on that point, the clear air, is that when Don came to you, was it relief? Was it frustration? What?
Certainly not relief, certainly not relief. as Don said it earlier, the industry and our football club is made up of people and relationships. So the one thing I lament too, and I support what Don said earlier, is really, really good people in our football club. And, to end up like this hurts. I won't make any, I can't say it any other way. It hurts. So I'm not happy about it. And I'm still wrestling, right up to the last minute. Is this right? Still not sure, to be honest, right? But Don has made this decision. It's exclusive of anything else that's going on in our football club. And Don is a man of the highest calibre. He's an A-grade person with great values. He's set high standards. And I think whatever he sets his mind to and tasks himself with next, he'll achieve. But this is sad.
Do you think fans have got it wrong about Don?
We listen to the fans, and we've been listening to them in recent times, and we take into consideration everything that our fans say. But it's also not a popularity contest. And as a chairman and as a CEO and as a board and a senior management team, we need to make decisions that are in the best interests of the football club. As much as we take all of those opinions into account, we are the ones closest to it, and we will make the best decisions until we're not the right people to make them.
Andrew, sorry. You're on the part of the review. Can you tell us how it evolves from here, what it now means?
Yeah, well, the review process will still continue as it's set out to. So Jason, Matthew, Tim and Jonah have been conducting their meetings and interviews. They've met with a large number of the players and the coaching staff and football department staff, and that'll continue for the next couple of weeks. So as Don and Rob have outlined, this decision is completely separate to that. But obviously the key themes and insights might help form or help to inform us as we look to identify the best candidate to now take the senior coaching role at the Adelaide Football Club. So what we learn from that will help us with the next step that we have to take.
And I understand that question, and can I just reinforce Don's decision is exclusive of that review. I just want to reinforce it. And I tell you, the pause button hasn't been pushed in our football club today either. There's numerous things going on and programs of work that are underway that at this time of the year we all do. And there's a big agenda there, and they're going on side by side, and over the next few weeks all of that will play out, and any decisions that need to be made will be made, and as you said, Andrew, it's going to plan to date.
Well, you'll appoint a separate coaching panel to look at the next coach?
Yeah, good question, Andrew. I mean, that has served us well in the past, and given sort of a decision of last night, I think we will sit down today, tomorrow, and probably announce something in a very short period of time. It will be a panel, be made up of the right people. It'll be an extensive search to find the very best replacement that we can, and we're confident that we can do that. And we'll take as much time as we need to do that. We know what the talent pool exists, or who exists in that talent pool, and we'll go about that judiciously.
When you say the right people, you look for people outside the football club with obviously football experience, or what sort of people you look for that?
We won't put any constraints on it. I think it's got to be exhaustive, and that's what we'll do. We've probably got to sit down and look at what is the right qualities, the right behaviours, what are we looking for in the coach for our club today? And so we'll work through that. It's still a bit embryonic.
And I think that we've had obviously a panel that we've put together for the selection of both Don and Phil Walsh, we think served us well in terms of its relative construct, and said I'm really confident that we'll have that finalised in the next few days. The process of identifying a potential replacement will continue as quickly as possible, and I assure our members and fans that we'll do everything possible to ensure that we get the best possible candidate.
Well, how do you make calls on players?
When would you want a coach appointed? Given obviously you've got trade period in October and then on pre-season.
Yeah, well, just as soon as possible. Obviously, we want to find the best possible person, not the person that we can find the quickest. So it's an important decision, and we'll identify the criteria that we're looking to match against potential candidates. We'll go through that process as quickly as we can, but we'll take as long as it needs to find the best person.
Rob, how do you make calls on players? A few guys looking at other clubs, obviously out of contract players like Keith and Greenwood, Sam Jacobs, etc. How do you make decisions on them now that Don, as senior coach, is not involved?
Yeah, it's a bit what I alluded to before, Andrew. You know, there's no pause button on list management and that committee and the people that operate in that environment and that space. Conversations are ongoing with players, player managers, other clubs. So I said, I don't think we miss anything there. It just goes on as normal, and you know, those discussions will lead us to where it leads us. All clubs are going through it at the moment. There's still a few playing finals, and you know, it's a silly season, as they say, so there's lots going on.
Well, leading up to the point where you got the call last night, and you said you spoke to Don in the days leading up to that, do you think this was a possible outcome in all reality?
Look, I try and, you know, when you're dealing with all of these situations, not rule out anything. You've got to remain open-minded. You know, you've got to respect the wishes and thoughts of, you know, in this case, Don. As I said, the discussions sort of went back and forth and oscillated between, you know, various bookends. And you know, it's Don's decision. And Don reached the conclusion yesterday for all the things that he's espoused to date. And as I said, Andrew and I accept that, and we're disappointed. And we've gone through a range of emotions through all of this. But at the end of the day, we need to respect the decision that he has made.
Andrew, are you considering your future at the club?
No, look, I'm like everyone else. We exist in a highly scrutinised industry with plenty of challenges, and I'm subject to those as much as anyone else, and subject to delivering to the club's expectations. But no, I love this footy club, and I think we've got an exciting future, and I intend to do my very best to achieve all that we possibly can.
And this club is in really good shape. You know, I do listen to a lot of the things that are said about it, and this club is in really good shape thanks to a lot of the things that the CEO has done. We've got a review into the football department. You know, that is what everybody cares about, and make no mistake, that's why we exist, to win games of football. And we're doing that. So we're reviewing that because that's where we need to get better at. And that's what our fans and our supporters demand, and I like that. So that's why we're doing that. But the rest of our football club is in really good shape, and there's lots of things going on, lots of stuff going on that's being conducted by very, very good people, and I just don't want to miss the opportunity to mention that.
What are the moments that you look back on with fondness over the last week? These have been negative when a coach looks at it.
Yeah.
What do you look back on fondly?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I was just reflecting with some of the senior players before. You know, there's a lot that we should be proud of them. We made 16 games in the first year. We made obviously the grand final in the second year, and that in itself is first time in the club's in 20 years in the club's history we made the grand final. So, you know, certainly for me, as bad as that day it turned out for us, you know, certainly the prelim final the week before where we played Geelong here was, and the feeling in the room after the game was pretty special.
Any regrets, Don?
So?
Any regrets?
Oh, I tend not to be one that tends to look back and regrets. I think there's always learnings. There's things which, you know, I'll reflect on now and in coming weeks, and things which, you know, I'll learn and take forward in life. But that's the thing. I came to the footy club. I was given a great opportunity to work at a great club, and I've loved my time. And there's some things I've learned I take away. But you know, a lot of things as I said, I do them because I'm passionate about the game, and I believe in the young men that we've got at the footy club, and as I said, I just wish them all the best for the future, and I'm sure they'll bounce back quickly, and hopefully our Sandford guys who are playing really well, you know, perform strongly on the weekend and give themselves a chance to play in a grand final as well. So there's a lot to look forward to, you know, at this footy club, and as I say, I'm sad and disappointed to reach the decision I did, but as I said, I feel it's in the best interest of the club and allows them that space to be able to move forward.
Don, what do you think in particular, aside from potentially winning a few more games, what do you think in particular you would have liked to see change, or what needs to change?
Oh, there's not really one thing, to be honest. It's, you know, obviously, you know, as I said, we underperformed in terms of our expectations. I think we were pretty bullish at the start of the year as a group, and I'm not talking externally. I think internally we had some good expectations, and that's probably from just purely the footy department viewpoint, and we clearly didn't meet those. And you know, the reality was the last 9 weeks after the bye just weren't to the level, you know, in terms of what the game demands of us. So there's some things which I know from a coaching viewpoint, and we've had that conversation with, you know, my assistant coaches, and the review process has begun in that space. with our high performance guys, and there'll be some stuff that'll come out from a cultural leadership viewpoint from the review, which I'm sure will all go into the hopper and will only help the club go forward, is my view. I don't think it can hurt, and I think the beauty of these things, when you do have reviews and you do have change, it does give people an opportunity to implement change. It's going to be without me, which makes me sad, but I think that's the best course of action for right now. So, I think there's a lot to look forward to, and if we can learn those lessons and, we can get to a point whereby, the guys are able to play at a consistently high level, there's the future looks bright.
What are you looking forward to now as an unemployed man to you?
To be honest, I haven't really thought looking forward. Clearly, I'm looking forward to spending some time with my family and my friends, and maybe doing some normal things. But I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and refine normal. I think but just spending some time with them is going to be really important, and being able to do it without my head probably spinning 24/7 on football and football matters. And that's the reality. This is an interesting life to lead. It's challenging. I know, talking to the other guys who sit in my chair, that it has its unique challenges to all of it, and it has its impact on those closest to you. And that's just the ability to be present. When you're having a conversation with someone, you're not thinking about who you're going to match up on this guy, what you're going to do there, and that's it might take me a while to back up a little bit, but I think once I do, hopefully I can play a bit of golf and chill out a bit.
Don, just looking at social media while we've been talking here, a lot of people saying it's taken you 3 weeks to reach this conclusion. Yep. I know you've answered this, but it's in the middle of the review. People are obviously linking the review to your decision.
Mm.
How do you address that? What do you say to those people?
Well, what I said before, the reviews had no impact on my decision. My decision's been based on my personal self-reflections and the conversations I've had, and the feedback I've received from that. So, I appreciate the review's ongoing, and I think the review will come up with some really good signposts for the club to take forward, but the two are separate.
Last 2 questions, guys.
Don, despite everything you say, that you're not walking away from the idea of coaching. So you say it's a bubble and you've got to live with it, but you're happy to go into that bubble again? Yeah,
well, let's see how I come out of the bubble. Probably, at the moment it's kind of hard. I've been season finished 2 weeks ago. I've been obviously seriously contemplating my future and position at the club, to reach the decision today, and then from here assess what it looks like and what role and what capacity going forward, and I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. But as I say, I enjoy footy, I enjoy coaching, and we'll see what the future plays out.
Will you take part in the review now, Don? Would you be happy to contribute to the review now that you're gone?
Oh, if I'm required.
Is that a possibility?
I have no problem. I have no problem inputting into the review if I need to be spoken to at some point, because obviously the review is about a look forward, but you've got to look back to go forward. And if I've got anything I can add to the review process, then I'm more than happy to share my thoughts or feelings if they help going forward.
It'd be fair to say that we have canvassed all of that too over the last few weeks. Hey, can I just finish up? Thank you for coming down today. I just want to thank Don, for the contribution that he has made to our football club. He made a mark. He did come into this football club, under the most trying of circumstances, and he led the football club with compassion, and he led it with integrity, and it was very values-based. He had high standards, very high standards, and all of us have tried to live up to them. But as I said, he's an A-grade person, a good friend. A lot of people leave this football club, and the way you exit is really, really important to me, and it's important to all of us. And I think he leaves with head held high and full of dignity, and certainly full of respect from me and everybody in this football club. So, Pikey, thank you for that. Once a friend, you're always a friend of our football club. And maybe a round of applause, seriously, from staff and our players.
Thanks for your time, guys.